Are you curious about exploring your kinks in public without getting caught? This guide to public play and public sex shows you how to stay discreet, ethical, and wildly turned on anywhere. I'm Brandon the Dom. Let's dive in. Now, public play was one of my favorite kinks early on, even before I discovered the world of BDSM. I have many fond memories of missing half a movie because I was playing with my ex-girlfriend in the theater, then having sex with her in the bathroom. I remember heavy petting in the streets of Chicago, or playing with her for an hour and a half on a tour bus back home, and many, many more. For me, it taps into one of my strongest erotic desires, being naughty, rebellious, and a little taboo, while extending foreplay to the point that you want to rip each other's clothes off. Put simply, it's really hot. As I've gotten older, I've gotten much more conscious about how my actions may be impeding on other people's consent. Public play walks a fine line between a fun private moment between you two and accidentally including strangers in your sexual gratification without their consent. So today we're going to explore how you can engage in public play safely, discreetly, and in ways that it ensures it stays between you and your partner, or at least among those who have knowingly consented within the space. So first off, what is public play? In simple terms, it means consensually engaging in sexual, kink, or BDSM related activities in a public setting rather than the privacy of your own space. Within that, we have to address the ethics of consent. Setting aside whether some acts are socially acceptable, the real ethical dilemma with public play is whether strangers around you have consented or not. Just because you're okay with people seeing your kink doesn't mean that they're going to feel comfortable with it, especially when they're witnessing parts of your sexual gratification without them ever having the opportunity to consent. Even worse, poor planning and a lack of caution can inadvertently expose children to your activities, which is absolutely unacceptable. I'm not here to tell you what's right or wrong to do in public. You need to think for yourself and decide where the line lies for you in your actions. Personally, I tend to believe that public play should either happen in spaces where others are knowingly engaging in similar types of acts, such as at a play party, or in a way that's discreet enough that no one is aware or at risk. Regardless, the point is you're aware of your context, the people that will be in the space, and whether consent may be needed. With that in mind, let's talk about why people might enjoy public play. Engaging in sexual or kinky acts in public is like turning up the dial on even the tamest acts. That's because it elicits a rush of arousal, often interpreted as excitement or anxiety, depending on the person. Some of the most popular reasons that people enjoy public play is the thrill of being caught, because it is one of the biggest risks in engaging in public play. And that very possibility can make the whole act exciting and nerve-wracking all at once. There's also people that like being exhibitionists. They like showing off their body or their kinky behavior and enjoy the feeling of being watched. There's also the naughty or taboo factor to it. Public play is not socially acceptable in 99% of places, and that very taboo nature can make the act feel more transgressive and more erotic. Some people also enjoy humiliation because certain acts may feel degrading or humiliating to endure in public, especially under that imagined or perceived judgment of others. And for some, that sense of humiliation is a powerful turn-on. All right, now let's talk about how to engage in public play. Before we dive into ways and places you might explore public play, it's important to understand the potential consequences if you get caught. Some acts may result in nothing more than an awkward moment, like having to explain your DS dynamic to someone unfamiliar with the lifestyle. Other acts, however, could land you in legal trouble or jail. So always engage at your own risk level. With that said, let's talk about 13 ways you can engage in public play. And I'm going to deliver these ranking from the least likely to get caught to the most likely to get caught. So the first way you can engage in public play is through secret phrases. So before you and your partner head out, you can agree on secret phrases that have a hidden meaning only for you two. For example, you could say, "Honey, do you need to use the bathroom?" Which might mean that they're supposed to go to the bathroom and edge themselves before returning. Or a phrase might be, "Will you grab my wallet from the car?" And that might be code for having them go insert a vibrator or a butt plug. To everyone else, it sounds like casual conversation. Between you two, it's foreplay. The next thing is subtle protocols. So many DS dynamics may extend their play out into public through very subtle, everyday behaviors that can carry very deep and significant meaning. For example, a submissive might practice service submission by fetching water, driving the car, or deferring meal choices to the dominant at a restaurant. These acts may raise an eyebrow or seem a little unusual, but they're unlikely to draw any serious attention. The next thing you can do is sexting. So you can actually sit apart from your partner in a public setting and exchange explicit texts or photos. To turn up the heat on this, one of you might sneak off to a bathroom or fitting room for a quick partial nude. Of course, be mindful of your surroundings and how visibly aroused you may appear, and if others can see your phone screen, because discretion here is everything. The next way you can engage in this is by doing clothing restrictions. So the Dom can control what the submissive is allowed to wear or isn't allowed to wear when going out in public. A classic is a sundress with no bra and panties. You can also order them to remove clothes during an outing, most likely having them going to the bathroom to do so. But as always, be socially aware of the context and choose venues where choices in clothing are unlikely to cause alarm. You can also enforce movement restrictions. So engaging in mental bondage, where you're setting restrictions or rules for how the person may be able to move, can be incredibly effective in public. So you could command your submissive to walk on a specific side of you, keep their hands above the table, or to sit in a certain way. And if they break that protocol, you can keep tally and administer punishment in private later. The next one is speech restrictions. So like movement, you can restrict what the submissive is allowed to say, and violations of that would lead to consequences later. Now, depending on what is restricted, it may begin to look odd to outsiders, but if it's done subtly, it can often pass without much notice. The next way to engage in this is wearing a collar. Collars, especially the fashionable ones or day collars, often blends in with modern styles and jewelry. However, unless you're at a kink-friendly venue, I don't recommend using a leash or walking your submissive around in a traditional BDSM style collar. Again, here subtlety is everything. Next up is under the clothing body writing. So for those that are into degradation, you can write humiliating phrases on your submissive's body in places that are going to be hidden by clothing. And then while you're out and about, you could order them to sneak away and go take a photo somewhere. Next up is also doing under the clothing bondage. So bondage gear like rope harnesses or chastity devices can be worn under clothing. You can also raise the bar a little bit and wear leather cuffs that are within a hoodie, nipple clamps inside of a bra, or different gear underneath layers. I've even seen bras for those that are masochists that have like little pin needles inside of the bra. Again, nobody outside of that is going to notice. Here, you just want to make sure that you're aware of your movements and make sure that the gear that you're wearing doesn't interfere with any physical movements that you need to be doing. Similar to this is wearable sex toys. So insertables, plugs, remote control vibrators can all be worn underneath clothing for a deliciously stimulating outing. Using ones with Bluetooth control, the Dom can tease them throughout the day. Just be mindful of your volume with these and your arousal levels, again, depending on your setting. The next one up that we're going to talk about is petting. So now you're getting into areas that are going to require much more discretion, especially when it starts involving sexual touch. So you want to look for semi-private places like secluded corners, single-person restrooms, or fitting rooms, and stay very alert of other people unexpectedly entering the area. Another level up from this is doing car sex. So doing things like roadhead, sex in a parked vehicle, or driving around with your submissive tied up in the back can all be very thrilling, but it does carry higher risk of public exposure. So choose your spot wisely and prioritize privacy. And the last one that I'm going to talk about is dogging. Dogging is basically when you meet up to have sex in public and invite others to watch or join in. So if your goal is to be seen by other consenting adults, then this is something that might scratch the itch. But be very cautious. You're still going to be at risk of non-consenting adults stumbling upon the scene. So this type of play is going to require the maximum amount of planning and vigilance. So let's talk about that next, how you can plan your public play. Like any well-executed scene, public play is going to require planning, but it often demands even more attention to logistics to ensure that everything stays discreet and consensual. This could mean everything from packing the right tools to picking the right location. Whatever it is, a little preparation goes a long way in avoiding unwanted exposure or interruptions. So my first tip with this is bring what you need. Make sure that all your gear is ready to go. So that might mean fully charged vibrators, pre-established code words or protocols, or safety tools like body-safe shears when you're doing bondage. Being prepared ensures that everything flows smoothly and reduces the risk of unwanted surprises. The second thing to this is knowing your location. So familiarize yourself with the place, the layout, the foot traffic, the level of privacy, and the social norms of that space. Scout it out beforehand, especially if you're planning to do something riskier. The more daring the activity, the more privacy you're going to want. A nearly empty hiking trail is different than a packed coffee shop, so plan accordingly. The next thing to think about is wearing the right clothing. So if you're incorporating bondage or wearable sex toys, choose clothing that can conceal that gear securely and comfortably. For more sexual activities, wear clothing that can be quickly moved aside or adjusted easily and can be quickly put back in place should it need to be. When you're in your locations, locate the nearest private space. Bathrooms are often your best ally because they're one of the few public places where you can instantly shift from a crowded environment to total privacy. They're perfect for adjusting toys, escalating a scene, or simply catching your breath. Changing rooms, parked cars, study rooms, and unoccupied offices can also serve as discreet havens when needed. And lastly, choose the right type of public space. So some venues are specifically designed for public or semi-public play with the expectation that others are consenting to witness or participate. So these include sex-friendly venues like sex clubs, dungeons, private or public play parties, and certain adult stores. Depending on the activity, even a sex shop or a munch may be more accommodating than the general public. Just keep in mind that each space has its own rules and boundaries. If you're unsure what's allowed, just ask the organizers. The benefit of these spaces is you can fully embrace your exhibitionist desires without the risk of scandal or legal trouble if somebody catches you mid-play. Public play can be one of the hottest, most thrilling ways to build sexual tension and deepen DS dynamics. But as with everything in BDSM, it comes with responsibility. The goal here is not to perform for an unsuspecting audience. It's to create an erotic secret between you and your partner that's hidden in plain sight. That secrecy, the risk of being caught without actually being caught, that's what the turn on is. The trick is balancing that erotic edge with mindfulness of your environment, of others around you, and of the potential consequences. Whether you're slipping in a plug before lunch or exchanging humiliating photos across the bar, public play is at its best when it's just for you two, or you and other consenting adults. So take your time, plan well, get creative, and remember, the hottest scenes are often the ones that no one else even notices. If you're looking for other fun things to try, I recommend checking out this video on bondage and how you can get started quickly without learning rope. So check out that video, and thank you so much for your time and attention.